Hello. Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. As you can see on your screen, today I have an amazing guest for you. Reyna Cohan is a yoga teacher with many hours of training under her belt. She takes with her personal practice as well as her teachings the body-kind yoga approach. An invitation to meet yourself where you are, and from there, grow from acceptance to radical self-love while being okay with not loving yourself every moment. At the end of class, Reyna wants students to feel empowered in the practice, appreciative of their body, and maybe to have laughed a little. Hello, Reyna.
Hi, thank you for that intro. That was so nice.
It's your work. It's your work, yes. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you for having me.
I love your work. I love how you're putting yourself out there on social media. I'm a fan.
Thank you.
So I would like to know, how did yoga came to your life?
So I actually used to do like magazine yoga. When I was in like high school, they had like the Cosmo Girl or Cosmopolitan. They'd have like little yoga workouts and really I wanted to be thinner. And so I saw yoga and I was like, oh, okay, well, this seems like the way. And so I would just do these little magazine workouts. And then I went to a yoga studio that was near my house when I was about 19. And I had a really, really bad experience. Actually, I got put into a headstand and I hurt my neck, and it was just a bad experience. And so I didn't go back for quite some time, but I was always interested, and I always felt kind of drawn to it, and I just didn't really know why. And then I dabbled a little bit, but I lived in Australia for about 8 months, a few years back, like 6 years ago. And I started practicing at a studio there, and just the teachers and the atmosphere, really, I just connected with it. And I never really stopped since then. I just kind of got obsessed with it, and I did like little mini workshops, and I knew that yoga was going to be part of my life for a long time. And that's kind of when I decided that I wanted to teach.
Oh, amazing. And you mentioned that you started yoga because you wanted to be thinner.
Yeah.
So how did that message came to your mind? Because of the magazines, or was a talk between the friends? What?
I think so much of, unfortunately, like of being a person, especially being a woman, especially in Western society, it's like you work so hard to fit the mold that you're presented. And so growing up, like that was all I saw. I just saw, it's what everyone sees. It's just like the thin person, the super fit person, whatever kind of that physical person looks like. And it was a thin person it still is in a lot of ways for a really long time. And so I was never that. I was always like a big kid. I was in kindergarten, I was like taller than everyone. In middle school, I looked like I was way older. And so it's just like, I was reaching for this ideal that realistically, like, even if I lost 100 pounds, I would still not look like those people. And so when I saw like yoga, you see just like that ideal in my head, like that, maybe like a blonde woman, really thin, really like flexible. And it was just like everything that I felt like I wasn't. And so it just seemed like the perfect kind of pathway to kind of get to like the best version of myself, or what I thought that was at the time. And so when the opportunity presented itself for me to go, I like jumped right on it.
I couldn't agree more with that story. Yes. Even now, if you go to Google and you search yoga, every day, I'm so happy that there's more representation, but still, if you stay with the first 20 results, you get an idea.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's getting better, but it's just like, how did it even get there to begin with, So.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, because I think many people also can relate to that story. Absolutely. Yeah. And in what moment did you realize that yoga was more than trying to change your body?
Well, I think before I did my yoga teacher training, I was practicing Ashtanga for a bit, and I tried it once before, and then I really got into it when I lived in Tennessee, and I practiced Ashtanga there. And Ashtanga is really challenging. Like physically, it's really, really demanding, and I just felt so empowered by that practice. And I feel like I was really lucky because the teachers I had they're both women, and they were both moms. So they both had children, and the relationship that they had with their bodies, they were so comfortable with just saying, okay, well, move your body, lift your belly, lift your arm, move your body. It's okay to manipulate yourself to get into these shapes. And it was such like a radical moment for me, because I just didn't feel like my body was in the way anymore. I was like, oh, okay, so my body can do this. And I don't practice Ashtanga anymore, but just like being able to access things that I really never kind of thought I was capable of was so empowering. And then I started getting into like the deeper, the more philosophical parts of it and the spiritual side of it. And I learned like some Sanskrit while I was practicing, and I learned about the bandhas. And I just feel like it's such a really interesting introduction to the practice Ashtanga. And it was a very special experience. And I'm so, so grateful for my Ashtanga teachers out there. So hi, Holly.
No, yes. And in what moment did you realize that you wanted to become a teacher?
I think I took a little workshop. I think it was called like The Modern Yogi or something like that. Ooh. When I was in Australia. Yeah, it was like right when I was starting to practice, and we did a lot of journaling, and we kind of worked to uncover some limiting beliefs, and just we learned about kind of the yamas, the niyamas, and we just kind of dipped our toes in a little bit. And I feel like when I really started to kind of look into myself and kind of try to look ahead at my life, and it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, like I could do this. Like I feel really connected to this, and it doesn't feel performative, and it just feels really natural. And so like when I did that workshop, I wrote down like, I want to be a yoga teacher, and the seed was kind of planted. And it took probably, I think 3 or 4 years till I did my training from them. But it was kind of sitting in my head for a little while.
Amazing. And when you started your training, did you face any kind of challenge, or maybe the inner voice of saying, no, I'm not made for this, because of the way you looked or the way your classmates looked?
So I did my yoga teacher training in Thailand. And so we had this really interesting mix of people. And, before I started the training, all I wanted to do was be a yoga teacher. I was like obsessed with it. I would write it in my journal every day. I was like doing affirmations. And so when I got there, I was so focused on learning that I feel like I had tunnel vision, and I didn't even really give myself time to connect with the people in the training until a couple weeks in. And it was just like this, and this single-minded focus. And I felt like I've always felt like I needed to prove myself, especially in yoga spaces. Like I need to be the best. I need to be the most flexible. I need to be sweating the most, just to kind of prove that I deserve to be in the space. And I could feel myself doing that so much, just like wanting to answer every question right, wanting to do every single practice start to finish. And you're practicing like so much more, because I did an immersive. And so every day it's like we're doing practices, and just the physical practice is so much more demanding in an intensive training. And so I feel like it was just almost it wasn't even the self-doubt. It was just like the need to be the best, and which I think comes from self-doubt for sure. And so I think once that kind of, I relaxed a little bit into the training, I got to connect with the people in my training, which was, amazing. Like it was so beautiful. And we had so many different people there from different countries, and it was such a great experience, and everyone was so kind. Like I feel like I lucked out, because I've heard some, I don't want to say like horror stories, but I've heard some like tough experiences, especially for people of color, for Black people, for people in bigger bodies, in yoga teacher trainings. And I think that was what I thought was going to happen when I walked in. And so I was like guards up, and I feel blessed. I think I got really lucky to have really a welcoming and beautiful community at my training.
Awesome. Yes. When I did my first training, I was also with the Self-Conscious and also with the guards up. Yeah. Because all of my classmates were the exact example when you search Google, in Google Yoga. So it was like, and also it's part of the job that we have to make to erase the beliefs. Because and now I can say it because I'm past that, but I would look, one classmate that was super thin, super flexible, and I will create barriers and start creating stories in my mind about the way that person was. And no, that's yoga, to realize and to change.
Yeah, because we make up these stories about, and I would still catch myself doing it even in classes, like, oh, the person next to me, and just like whatever I thought about them or whatever that I thought they thought about me, and just and it's like that. And I think it's harmful because it's like that competition, and like yoga isn't competitive, and I think that's really, for me, that was a lot of it, like needing to feel like I needed to compete with the person on the mat next to me, and it's just like not, and I think that is the work, like moving past that and like dropping those judgments and, like trying to have that self-inquiry, to have like that personal journey, even within a classroom setting.
Absolutely. The biggest slap in the face that I had about my judgments were when I started teaching my Yoga for All Bodies class. In my mind, this was a project, this was a class only for larger bodies. But I started getting yoga teachers because they were listening about these yoga variations and they wanted to know more. And I started getting a lot of thin people that weren't flexible. But when I watched them enter to the studio, I said, why are you in my class? Why? Yeah. But I realized that they needed a space like that.
Yeah, 100%. I actually had a comment on one of my YouTube videos, and someone said, I'm a skinny person, but I'm not a pro. Like, I'm not good at yoga, and this class really helped me feel capable. And I think that's so nice, because there really is, I think that's part of the problem, especially in yoga spaces. There's so many assumptions made. Someone's, a teacher maybe sees someone in a larger body, they assume X, Y, and Z about them. They see someone in a thinner body and they assume another set of things. And we don't know someone's capabilities. We don't know, what someone is carrying just by the way they look. And it can be kind of dangerous. I know people who aren't very flexible, who maybe don't have a lot of range in certain parts of their physical practice, and they'll get adjustments because of the way they look, or they're hyper flexible and they're getting adjustments, and it could, lead to injury. Whereas like I've gone to classes, I've gone to teachers over and over again, and I won't get adjustments, when we had in studio classes, because like there's an assumption about my capability or my range or something. And it's like, I love adjustments, like, please. And so it's just, it's such a hard path to kind of navigate.
Yes. But I think what you said is key. Don't make assumptions. Just don't.
No, I agree.
Yes. For example, when I started teaching the Yoga for All Bodies class, I would get a lot of women in larger bodies. And the first time I taught this class, I said, okay, what I'm going to do with the planks and everything. And you know what? I had to swallow my words. They plank like there's no tomorrow with a lot of strength. Yes. So never. Yes.
Totally.
Yes. And you also mentioned in your social media, in your website, the word embodiment. What can you tell us about that? And what do you want to share with that?
I feel like being a person, being a body, and being embodied are different things. I feel like for so long, I walked through the world really disembodied, like almost intentionally, not wanting to connect with myself, not feeling at home with my body, constantly wanting to change it. And then just ultimately disconnecting, disassociating from my body because it kind of just held too much. It was just too much to deal with. I couldn't figure it out. It was just this, tough place to exist. And so, I detached. I did the best I could to just not think about my body. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's, for some people, it's necessary to not be, connected for a bit, just to heal and to cope. Once I kind of moved through a lot of my kind of mental ideas around bodies and physical appearance and just like food and things like that, I started to just like take little steps back into my body. And I think social media can be a really tough place, but I also think it can be a really healing space. And I remember I must have been 23 and I just cleansed my Instagram of any body that made me feel, not made me feel, but I allowed to make me feel less than. And so I just cleansed my feed and I just started following people who I felt looked like me, people bigger than me, people with just everything other that this society kind of pushes to the side. And I just exposed myself to everything that made me uncomfortable. And so for me, it was a lot of fat people. I had so much internalized fat phobia. And so I just started following as many fat women that I could find, because the more I saw them and the more I was exposed to their embodiment, and they're just standing in their power and they're just looking beautiful in all these different ways, all these different shapes and sizes and colors and styles of embodiment. And it just was really, really empowering to me. And I think that kind of started to lead me down this path of me floating above my body to me kind of settling back into it. And then this last year and a half, I've really been getting into breath work, and I've kind of found this new space in my practice that is so non-competitive, so just gentle. And not to say I don't still sweat or do strength things, but it's really meant, my practice is so, I meet myself where I am, and I really take every day and every practice as a chance to be in my body and see what I am needing today. And, and I recognize my needs might not always be what I want. Sometimes I want to go really fast and pump push-ups out and do a vinyasa practice, but that might not be what I need for that day. And it's just really starting to build the discernment and the ability to recognize that. And that's really what I think embodiment for me is. It's just being here and acknowledging your wants and your needs and seeing how you can maybe meet them both for that day.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. And it's key what you mentioned about creating in your own social media experience that is good for your mind, that is good for your body, that is good for your life. Because we see a lot of people that are taking breaks on social media. And for me, that can't be. Because Instagram, social media needs to be fun, needs to be stimulating, needs to inspire you. If you're going to suffer, no.
I totally agree.
So if you're watching this video, go and curate.
Yes, curate your feed. I love that. Yes.
And follow. And I always say, if you are you have a compromise with someone, mute them.
Yeah. You're oh, it's my friend, but it's a little hard.
Yes, but take care of your mind is key.
Yeah, 100%.
And in the same line, how would you say that yoga has changed the relationship that you have with your body in your practice and also in life?
In so many ways. I think for a really long time, and still honestly, I feel like a heavy person because I kind of am, and that's okay. I don't say it negatively, but I remember being in middle school and my drama teacher told me that I was very heavy-footed and that he could hear me like walking down the hall. And I always felt like this very heavy, kind of graceless person. And yoga, the physical practice, really helped me find grace. I felt light in a way that I just never really experienced before. And the physical kind of lightness of it helped me also find kind of like the emotional lightness. I always felt like a very like heavy-hearted person. I was always like thinking about something, like I'll cry pretty much at anything. Happy, sad, I'm crying. So like, I just always felt
same.
this. Yeah, it's just like, gosh, it feels so good. But I just always felt like this kind of weight. And so I just really feel like the yoga practice gave me lightness. And it was a physical thing first. Like it was that physical feeling of lightness. And then it, kind of just sunk in, and I just feel like such a more lighthearted person because of my yoga practice. I definitely am so much less reactive. And I used to be really reactive. Like being an emotional person is one thing, but being emotionally reactive is another thing, I think. And I was like emotional and emotionally reactive. And so everything was like, just all around. And so I'm so grateful that I feel so much more in control and in kind of tune with my reactions, where I can like stop, take something and respond to it instead of react to it. And that's kind of, I think, the biggest gift that yoga has kind of given to my life overall. Because it really, gosh, how we react to things is kind of like an all day, all the time. Everything is just happening to us all the time. So having the ability to respond is my number one kind of takeaway from yoga.
Absolutely. The yoga of the mat
Yes.
that never stops.
Never.
Never. And I know you teach something that is called sensual asana.
Yeah.
What is that? I found it on your website and I was like, yes.
So I started doing pole dancing classes a while ago, and it's something I've always been interested in. I was always like, oh, this seems so cool. And then I've always moved around though. I've always just kind of moved every few months, and I never had the opportunity. So when I lived in Seattle, I bought a Groupon and I went to these pole classes, and it was just like this like, not like level, but this next version of movement for me. And I felt so connected to my body, and I was really struggling with my physical yoga practice at the time. Like I wasn't feeling connected to it. I was teaching a lot and not practicing that much. And so like my movement was feeling really scattered, and these classes just brought me back to myself in a way that I had been kind of searching for. And so as I was taking them and learning just these like exotic moves and and the place I did classes is really like femme empowerment, really focused on like, just, people being people. And it's not about the tricks and the inversion, which is all really cool. Like pole dancing tricks and strength is beautiful, but this place is really about like, just, tapping into yourself and finding that energy. And I kind of blended, I guess, these two experiences. And for me, like the sensual yoga I teach is a lot focused on self-touch. And so finding just ways within the yoga practice to touch your body. And so a lot of it has guided touch and kind of building that relationship. And even if you're not comfortable touching, you can hover your hands and move through the same kind of postures and cueing without needing to physically touch, just depending on where you are. And then the classes themselves, like the sequencing is very fluid. It's very dancey. And so there's not a whole lot of, I guess, like breaking in the movement. And like cat cow, it's all coming together. Everything has a wave to it. And so it's really, it's fun. I think it's kind of silly, but it's also like a very intimate way to, shift movement towards something, a little more a little more sexy, a little more tender, I think. And so it's been really fun. It's definitely something that I do often, and I'm actually going to post a little mini version on Valentine's Day on my YouTube channel, because I just feel like what a good day to, show yourself a little love.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love it because especially women, we grow up hating our bodies because the message is you're not good enough. You need to buy this to change your life. And once you buy it, once you change your life, you will be happy. You will be successful. You will have everything you've ever dreamed of. But that promise never ends.
No.
And part of that is like we were saying before, disconnecting from your body. When I started, I believe in thinner bodies, more larger than the one I am today. And the only thing in common was that I was never happy. I was never, yes. I was thin, but I wanted to be thinner. Then I was larger. So now I can say that I'm 32 years old and now I'm making peace. Now I'm living my best life. But imagine the amount of years that you lose. So you disconnect from your body. So I think it's so beautiful having that opportunity to touch, to reconnect with this awesome body that is carrying you through life.
Yes, exactly. Yes. 100%.
One of my powerful experiences in yoga was, I think, in my second yoga class, that the teacher said something so simple: bring the hands on top of your heart, find your heartbeat. And I started crying, like ugly crying, trying to be silent, but ugly crying, because I realized I'm alive. I'm alive, and this is my body. This is my life. Stop the nonsense.
I love that. I love that. I definitely have had those experiences, and just, I mean, I feel like we're told so often, it's like, your life starts when you lose weight. Your life starts when, it's just, and I did that for so long. Like, I was just like waiting to lose X amount of weight for my life to start, all the things I could do and all the clothes I could wear, and I told myself I couldn't even do a yoga teacher training until I lost weight. Like, and so it's just like, there's all these things that we dangle these like carrots in front of ourselves, just like chomping at them, trying to like get to the next thing and like allow ourselves to begin living. And it's just like such a disservice to ourselves. And gosh, it's not an easy thing to like let go of.
Oh, yes.
I still do it sometimes. It's just a constant reminder and constant practice. And like, nope, you're allowed to live your best and fullest life 20 pounds from now, 40 pounds from now, up or down, 100, like you're allowed to live your life, like, period.
Absolutely. Yes. And what advice would you give someone that is watching this video and maybe saying, okay, this sounds beautiful, but how can I really start practicing yoga?
Yeah. I think, well, first, recognizing that the yoga practice is more than physical. I think a lot of people get really intimidated by what yoga looks like in a lot of ways. And it's like, there are so many ways to practice yoga, and it doesn't have to be a physical thing at all. And so like, if you feel interested in yoga, but the physical part seems too intimidating right now, or it's just like not accessible or available, there are other ways to kind of start that connection. And it could be like by reading some spiritual texts, breath work, meditation. There are so many ways to be a body and to practice yoga. And if the physical practice is something, I think just like finding short classes, like finding little tastes to start, because diving into an hour class, even for me, especially right now, I'm like, an hour, that feels like a lot right now. And sometimes 15 minutes is all I have for my mat that day. And it's just like acknowledging you can do a 10-minute physical practice and it can still be yoga. You can do variations. You can have all these ways to explore the physical side of yoga. And even if it doesn't feel perfect and it's not exactly what you're looking at and you're not in a handstand, like it's still yoga as long as you're meeting it with that intention and you're meeting it with like respect and you're honoring like yourself and your body with it. And it's still part of the practice. And just like, be gentle with yourself and ask questions. There's lots of really good resources out there. And there are so many beautiful teachers bringing like space to a practice, and at least like a westernized practice that's felt really narrow for a lot of people for a really long time.
Awesome advice. Love it. Yes, yes, yes. And now a question that I ask all the guests. Yoga for All Bodies is all about using props, creating variations. So I would like to know, what is your favorite yoga prop? Only one, and why?
Oh, blocks. I love blocks. Yeah, I just think they're awesome. I feel like you can do so many things with them and they just create so much space. And I think that's and I think you can substitute a lot of things for other props. Like there's just a lot of ways, whereas I just haven't found a good substitution for blocks. And once I got blocks that actually supported my body and I learned that I can use more than one block, I can stack them, I can spread them wide, like I can use as many of these. I think I probably have like 20 blocks. And it's just like, I love them. And I think once people learn, I can put these blocks under my hands, I can put a block under my back, under my neck, their practice is so expanded. I could use these for crunches and like hold them over my head. Oops, sorry.
Ooh, no problem. Yes, I agree. Blocks are, yes.
Yeah, so those are my favorite by far. And we're like, what do I get? Get a set of blocks. That's always my like first thing, because everything else you probably have in your house.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. And finally, how can people find you? Promote yourself. Give all the information.
Thank you. So I'm on Instagram at Reynissima. I'm also on TikTok, which I have like a weird relationship with. So if you want to find me on TikTok, my name is bodykind.withray. And so Instagram is my main platform. I also have my YouTube channel, which is Reyna Cohan, and I post 3 videos a week. Usually 2 yoga physical classes and then a guided meditation or a breath work. And everything is generally under 20 minutes. So really short snippets. And I try to make everything as beginner friendly as possible. And I'm starting a Patreon in March for longer classes. And so I'll be kind of updating my Instagram with more information on my Patreon, but yep, longer classes and some mini workshops, and just like a little bit of community, trying to just help people where they are and connect in a little bit of a deeper way than social media can always allow, just because it can get a little overwhelming. Yeah.
Amazing. So now you know, go to the Instagram, Reynissima. You will not regret it. So go now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Reyna.
Natalia. It's been great.
Thank you for sharing your story, your work.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this video, like it, share it, subscribe, because this is a message everybody needs to know.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for this platform. I think you're amazing. I love what you're doing. So thank you so much for having me. Truly honored. So thank you.
Thank you. And see you soon.
Yes.
Stay in touch.
Yes.
Bye in your house.
Bye.
See you in a new episode.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.